After sacrificing everything for her family, Nzinga finally took a step toward independence. But as she starts to build a life of her own, her family's shadow still looms over her. Will she find the strength to confront the ones she loves and claim the future she deserves? If you haven't watched part 1, be sure to catch up first to experience the full journey. Welcome to part 2 of Nzinga's story, where healing, confrontation, and self-discovery await. Nzinga's artwork began to gain attention in Kinshasa's art community. Madame Bintu arranged for her to display a few pieces in the shop, and soon people began asking about the artist behind the paintings. Her pieces, filled with emotion and depth, resonated with many, and Nzinga started to feel the stirrings of self-worth she had long been denied. One afternoon, Muela came into the shop, her face lined with a mix of pride and confusion. She looked at one of Nzinga's paintings, a river flowing through dense, tangled branches, symbolizing her struggles for freedom. Mwana Mwasi, this is powerful, Muela said, her voice soft. I didn't know you had such talent. Nzinga took a steadying breath, feeling a surge of confidence. Mama, there is much about me you have not known, because I have always been in Lola's shadow. Muela shifted uncomfortably, glancing away. You know, Nzinga, as the elder, you always had a role, a duty to carry the family's burdens. Nzinga's voice was calm but firm. Mama, I carried those burdens because you asked me to, but I am more than just a pillar. I have dreams and desires too. Muela looked at her daughter, her expression a mixture of regret and confusion. She seemed to realize, perhaps for the first time, how much she had taken Nzinga's loyalty for granted. But before she could respond, the door opened and Lola walked in, her eyes widening as she saw Nzinga's artwork on display. So you're an artist now? Lola's tone was both mocking and surprised. She looked around and as though trying to understand the version of Nzinga she saw before her. Nzinga met her sister's gaze with quiet strength. Yes, Lola, I am more than what you thought I was. Lola scoffed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Well, I'm glad you're finally finding yourself, Nzinga, but remember, some of us were born to shine. Not everyone has to be a shadow. The word stung, but Nzinga held her ground. A shadow exists only because there is light, Lola. And maybe for the first time, that light is mine. Madame Bintu, who had been observing the interaction, stepped forward. Nzinga, your art will be featured in a gallery next month. They're very impressed with your work. Lola's face faltered, her smile fading as she registered the news. Nzinga felt a small surge of triumph, not out of spite, but from the realization that her talents and efforts were finally being recognized. For so long, she had doubted herself, allowing others to define her worth. But now, standing in the shop with her art on display, she knew that her journey was only just beginning. After her family left, Ikoko came by the shop and Nzinga shared the news with him, her face glowing with happiness. This is just the beginning, Nzinga, Ikoko said, a proud smile on his face. Your art speaks of resilience, of breaking free. Kinshasa will know your name and not as anyone's shadow. Nzinga felt a tear slip down her cheek as she looked at him. In Ikoko's eyes, she saw not just admiration, but an understanding, a deep respect for her journey. As they stood together in the quiet of the shop, Nzinga knew that she had found both her voice and her place in the world. Nzinga's art exhibit arrived with much anticipation. The gallery was filled with guests, and Nzinga felt a surreal sense of pride as she walked through the room, seeing her work displayed under the soft, warm lighting. Her paintings, each a deeply personal reflection of her struggles and resilience, captured the attention of everyone present. Muela and Lola attended the exhibit, both uneasy in the glamorous setting, yet curious to see Nzinga's success firsthand. Muela had always associated art with something frivolous, something that didn't bring stability or respect. Yet, as she looked around, witnessing people admiring Nzinga's work, she began to question her assumptions. As she wandered through the gallery, Muela paused in the front of a piece titled The Elder's Burden. It depicted a solitary tree, its branches weighed down by tangled vines, struggling to reach the light above. Muela's eyes lingered on the image, realizing, perhaps for the first time, how much Nzinga had borne in silence. Lola, meanwhile, hovered by the edges of the gallery, visibly uncomfortable. She wore a tight smile, but her eyes darted around, no longer the center of attention as she had always been. She approached Nzinga hesitantly, her voice low. "Nzinga, you've surprised everyone with this," she said, her tone caught between admiration and bitterness. "I didn't think you'd ever leave, well, the background." Nzinga looked at her sister calmly, her eyes unflinching. "I was only in the background because that's where everyone wanted me to be, Lola, but I am not there anymore." Lola's smile faded as she shifted uncomfortably. "Well, maybe it's easy for you now, with all this success. But you know, Nzinga, life isn't fair for everyone." Nzinga shook her head slowly. "Life isn't fair, Lola, but that's not an excuse to hurt others." She paused, then added, "Maybe it's time we both learn to stand on our own." Muela, overhearing this, felt a pang of guilt. The reality of her words and actions over the years struck her, and she realized how much she had contributed to the rift between her daughters. Seeing Nzinga's strength and Lola's bitterness forced her to confront her mistakes. The following evening, Muela came to Nzinga's apartment, unannounced. Nzinga invited her in, sensing the tension in her mother's demeanor. Muela sat on the edge of the couch, her hands twisting in her lap as she struggled to find the right words. "Nzinga," Muela began slowly, her voice trembling, "I came to apologize. I see now that I have made mistakes that have hurt you deeply." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I told you to sacrifice, to carry burdens that were not yours. I made you feel that you were less as important because you weren't as visible as Lola." Nzinga listened quietly, her heart conflicted. She had waited a long time to hear these words, yet they felt bittersweet. "Mama," Nzinga replied, her voice steady, "I grew up believing that my worth depended on being the strong one, the one who always gave and never received. But that's not what family should be. Love doesn't mean losing yourself for others." Muela nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I thought I was doing what was best for both of you, but I see now that I was wrong. I allowed Lola's charms to blind me, to make me forget that you were just as important, just as deserving of love and attention." Nzinga took her mother's hand gently, her voice softening. "We can't change the past, Mama, but maybe we can start fresh. I need to be my own person now, without guilt, without expectations." Muela's shoulders sagged with relief as she squeezed Nzinga's hand. "I understand, Mwana Mwasi. I only hope you can forgive me one day." As Muela left, Nzinga felt a weight lift from her heart. She knew there was still healing to be done, but for the first time, she felt truly seen by her mother. It was a small step, but a meaningful one. After the exhibit, Lola's relationship with Nzinga became strained. Yet beneath her frustration, Lola sensed that something had shifted in herself. The envy she felt had grown sharper, forcing her to confront her own behavior and its consequences. For so long, she had thrived on attention, never considering the impact of her actions on others, especially Nzinga. One evening, Lola found herself at home alone, reflecting on everything that had transpired. She realized that the constant craving for validation, the need to always be admired, had led her to hurt the one person who had loved her unconditionally. And now, that sister had risen above her, standing tall and proud, while Lola felt small and isolated. She remembered her mother's words throughout their childhood. "You are the jewel of this family, Lola." Perhaps she had always relied on that to justify her behavior. But now, as she sat alone, she felt the hollowness of her actions. The next morning, Lola went to Nzinga's apartment, swallowing her pride. Nzinga opened the door, surprised but calm. "Nzinga," Lola began, her voice softer than usual, "I know I've hurt you in ways that are difficult to forgive. I let my own selfishness and jealousy guide me, and I am sorry." Nzinga searched her sister's face, seeing vulnerability there for the first time. "Lola, I hope you understand that forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but maybe it can help us both move forward." Lola nodded, her eyes filled with regret. "I don't expect you to forget, but I want to try to change. I want to learn what it means to be a sister, not a rival." Nzinga felt a glimmer of hope, though she knew it would take time to rebuild their relationship. But in that moment, she felt that they had finally taken the first steps toward healing. With the reconciliation underway, Nzinga felt more at peace. Yet there was still an ache within her heart, a mixture of longing and excitement she had been afraid to acknowledge. Her friendship with Ikoko had deepened over the months, and she knew that her feelings for him had grown beyond friendship. One afternoon, as they worked together in the studio, Ikoko turned to her, his gaze warm and open. "Nzinga, I admire your courage, your resilience. You have become someone truly remarkable." Nzinga blushed, a shy smile on her lips. "Ikoko, I couldn't have done this without you. You've helped me see myself in ways I never imagined." They stood close, silence stretching between them, and for a moment the world outside faded away. Ikoko gently took her hand, his touch light but filled with intention. "Nzinga, I want to walk this journey with you, if you'll have me," he said softly. Nzinga's heart swelled, the years of pain and sacrifice finally giving way to a feeling of warmth, hope, and belonging. "Yes, Ikoko," she whispered, her voice steady. "I want that too." Their love blossomed slowly, rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Together, they continued to create art, each piece a celebration of their shared resilience and passion. For the first time, Nzinga felt whole, free from the shadows of her past. As Nzinga's art career flourished, she became a symbol of empowerment within her community. She hosted workshops for young artists, encouraging them to find their own voices and express their inner truths. Mwela attended one of these workshops, watching with pride as Nzinga guided the students, her face radiant with joy. Mwela approached her daughter afterward, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "You have brought so much honor to this family, Nzinga," Mwela said, tears in her eyes. "But more than that, you have taught me what it means to be strong. I used to believe that strength was about sacrifice and silence, but you have shown me that true strength is in living openly and without fear." Nzinga smiled, her heart full. "Mama, I am grateful for the strength you taught me, even if it came with challenges. I have found my own way, and I hope that others can do the same." In the years that followed, Nzinga became a celebrated artist, her work inspiring people across Kinshasa and beyond. Her paintings were infused with themes of freedom, resilience, and self-worth, and she used her success to support others, offering scholarships to young artists who came from humble backgrounds. Lola too found her own path, learning to embrace her talents in a way that was honest and independent of others' expectations. Her relationship with Nzinga improved gradually, and she grew to respect her sister's wisdom and strength. In the end, Mwela saw the legacy she had helped create. Two daughters who had grown through struggle, each finding their own voice. She recognized her mistakes, but also took solace in the fact that her daughters had found healing and strength despite the shadows of the past. Nzinga, now surrounded by love, purpose, and a community that valued her, knew that she was no longer bound by the roles others had imposed on her. She had become her own person, an artist, a sister, a partner, and a friend. Her journey had brought her through pain and sacrifice, but now she stood tall, her light shining brightly, no longer hidden in the shadows. Thank you for watching Nzinga's powerful journey to freedom and self-discovery. If this story inspired you, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories like this, filled with resilience, transformation, and triumph. There's so much more to explore, and we can't wait to share it with you. Stay tuned.